So good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to breakfast in the class. I want to share with you one short idea on our parasha, which I think speaks as well to a more general and a broader experience. The pasuk says, "Balak ben Tzipor melech leMoav va'etahi." Balak ben Tzipor was the king of Moab at that time. So there's a beautiful piece that Rav Chaim Soloveitchik explains. He says, what does it mean, melech leMoav va'etahi at that time? Was he not the melech of Moab a minute before, 2 minutes before? And he says as follows: the statements that Balak ben Zippor was saying, Hine am yatzav Mitzrayim, there's a nation that left Egypt. They're going to swallow up the whole of everything, the same way a cow will go and eat all of the grass. That's what the Jewish people are going to do. The minute the people heard him speaking with such anti-Semitism, with such a judgment, the people thought to themselves, this is our king. Melech leMoav va'etahi. Now this Gemara already tells us this idea in numerous places. The Gemara tells us a fascinating story. There was a opportunity for Titus to bring up his grandfather using Kishuv, using forces of evil. And he brings him up and he says, what do you think I should do? Give me some advice. What's your advice for me? And he says, he brought Titus back and he says, this is what you should do. He says you should start up with the Jews. You know why? Kol ha'mesar liYisrael na'aseh rosh. A person who starts up with the Jewish people winds up becoming the king. That's a reality in a world of anti-Semitism, is when someone comes out with statements like this, what happens? All of a sudden, everybody votes for them. Everybody wants them to be in charge because of the nature of Esav Soreh Yaakov. Tosafot actually has another interpretation as to why the people that started with Am Yisrael become, or they're given leadership. But my friends, we see this experience. Kol ha'mesar Yisrael na'aseh rosh. The guy comes out with all sorts of statements against the Jews. Melech leMoav va'etahi. My friends, I wanted to share one idea that I think is really powerful because of this. And that is that the nature, unfortunately, of politics is such. You know, in Eretz Israel, after October 7th, we had a time of shalom between the whole country, where everybody was together, everybody was standing for the same thing. You have people who they have not kosher restaurants, they're turning the whole restaurant kosher, so all the soldiers should be able to eat from their food. Crazy things you never heard of. Guy says, he called the rabbi, he says, this is the second time in my life I'm talking to a rabbi. I want you to come to my house and kosher my kitchen so I can make meals to send for the soldiers that everyone's going to eat. In that time, we had an outpouring of shalom. But my friends, all of a sudden you have the political candidates stirring, trying to turn different parts of Am Yisrael against each other. Why? Because when your power and your base stands and stems from the fact that you're anti-religion, so if people are not talking about being anti-religion, well, how many votes are you going to get? None. So they stir the pot to be able to provide power for themselves. They're willing to do anything because the main thing is for them to stay in power. This person, Balak ben Zippor, what makes him a powerful person? He's granted power because of his hatred for the Jewish people by his compatriots, by his country members. My friends, what was true then, unfortunately, sometimes we experience as well, even now. The right and the left are constantly stoking hatred against one another. And they know that the only way to appeal to their base, how do they appeal to their base? Is by stoking the hatred that you have for the other side. So in the leadership and in the lead up to the presidential election, you have people stirring the pot, saying that Trump is this, he's a fascist, he needs to be taken out, stopped at all costs necessary. What do you think is going to happen when you have rhetoric like that, speech like that going around in the Democratic parties? People are whipped up into a frenzy. They listen to these words, and then we experience what we saw yesterday. the presumptive Republican candidate, shot in broad daylight. My friends, that unfortunately is the nature of hatred and words that are spoken this way. You never heard Trump say, not one time, that Biden should be removed by any means necessary. You never heard those words. And because you didn't hear those words, so the people are not responding in that way. But my friends, every time a person uses words to become a rosh, to become a head, you have to ask yourself what the price you paid was. Let me explain. You know, we have a famous line that we say on Rosh Hashanah. We have the head of the lamb, Ashkenazim have the head of the fish, and when we eat from it, what do we say? Shniyeh lirosh velo lezanav. We should be for a head, and we should not be for a tail. But my friends, I always felt that that's not good enough. Why? Our rabbis tell us that better to be zanav la'arayot velo rosh leshu'alim. Better to be the tail of a lion than to be the head of a fox. So the idea that we could say shniyeh lirosh velo lezanav, being a rosh is not always a good thing. If you were appointed a head because you're the head anti-Semite, that's not a good thing. My friends, in business also, there are people who are called the head. This guy, you can't top him. You know why? He's ruthless. This guy is a shark. He takes down anybody and everybody. I remember a long time ago, there was a fellow had a conversation with a guy. The guy, unfortunately, he had a big story with his competition. He destroyed the competition. The guy in the end, his competitor, the guy had nothing to, he was going to be knocked out of house and home. I went to the guy. I said, listen, the guy's calling me up. He's telling me how bad the situation is. He said he has a small deal. For you it's nothing. For him it's food on the table. He says you're chasing down the deal for something that's not even worth your time. He said it feels like it's not business anymore, it's personal. I said, listen, I know you're a very charitable guy. You give lots of money to people who don't have what to put food on the table. I said, you're going to give $10,000, $100,000 to tzedakah to help people. I said, instead of giving the guy tzedakah, right, in two months, let him have the deal 2 months earlier. What a mitzvah that would be. If you let him have the deal, he doesn't need tzedakah. You know what the guy said to me? Rabbi, charity is charity, business is business. That's what he said to me. Charity is charity, business is business. So I smiled at him. I said, are we friends? He said, yes, we're friends. I said, I can be honest. He said, honest. I said, imagine after 120, they're going to take you to Shamayim. They're going to show you your place in Gan Eden. They're going to show you everything that you deserve because of your charity. And you're going to sit down, you're going to get comfortable. But right as you're about to recline in your recliner in Gan Eden, they're going to tell you, this was for the charity. But now we need to show you for the business. Because charity is charity, and business is business. I remember one of my favorite lines I ever learned about being a human being. How you do anything is how you do everything. A person who has Rahmanut doesn't have Rahmanut only over here, and only on Tuesday, and only at 8 o'clock. If you're a person who feels for somebody, then you have Rahmanut for them, whatever the case is. You don't only have Rahmanut for them in the form of a check to the Sephardic Food Fund or to SBH to help them with their difficulties. You see the guy, he needs it. Let him have it. Let him have it. In the end, Borei Olam will bless you 1,000 times more. And if it's hard to do, because you know what, it's business and it's not your nature, what do we learn about mitzvot that are hard to do? Lefum, tzara, agra, according to the effort and the pain, that's the reward. The harder it is for you, even more. I remember once on Yom Kippur, we opened up the Aron. You're going to love this, guys, but you're also going to hate it. So on Megillah, I opened up the Aron. We're going to do the tefillah for Parnasah. Le David Mizmor. We're going to say all the names of God that you scan with your eyes, but you don't say with your mouth. You look at the name, comes out from the pasuk, v'harikoti lachem beraka ad belidai. It sells for a lot of money. Everybody wants the zechut of parnasah, opening the aron for the tefillah parnasah. We opened the tefillah. I said, listen, everyone, before we do the prayer, I said, I want to ask everyone a favor. And everyone's listening. I said, okay, I want you to have in mind, when you're praying for parnasah for your family, I want you to think of one person that you know in the community that also needs parnasah, and you should pray for them too. Put his face in your mind's eye. You know the guy's struggling. Think of this guy when you're praying for parnasah. Why? The Gemara says, Kol hamitpalel ba'ad havero. Anyone who prays for his friend. Who sarich le'oto davar. He needs the same thing. Hu ne'anat techilah. So you want to get answered for parnasah. Have in mind also somebody else. You hear this? Ready for this? Everyone is shaking their head. I see this guy turn to his friend. He's like, oh, that's so nice. That's very nice. Listen, we love this rabbi. That's very nice. We love this rabbi. I said, guys, but now I'm going to ask you the second day, and now you're not going to love me so much. I said, I want you also to have in mind one of your competitors for parnasah. You heard in the shuls on Kippur. I smiled at my community. And I said, Dachila, you're about to pray to God for parnasah, which means that you believe that where does the parnasah come from? Him. If you can't have in mind that your competitor should also have parnasah, then you have no business saying the prayer at all. Close your book. Come back next year. My friends, a lot of times a person is na'aseh rosh. But for what did you become rosh? What did you have to do so now you're the rosh? And are you proud of the fact that those things are what made you the rosh? So you're the best businessman. Great. If you got there through integrity, because everybody knows when you shake hands with that guy, you never need to think twice. That's why you became one. So you're the rosh. What are you the rosh of? Not business. You're the rosh of honesty. But if you're rosh, because you know what? You have the best legal team. And every time you sit down at the table, in the 11th hour, in the 90th minute, you have your lawyers go over the contract, and you find the one way to mess the guy over in the last minute. And that's why you're the best. Rabbi, I have the best legal team. You don't have the best legal team. You have the best group of Rishaim who are capable of taking things that people did not realize, that everybody understood in the same room. We all understood that that's not what it meant. And what did you do? You twisted it to be able to drive a knife in the guy's ribs. I just need to point this out. All of us here, we're ma'aminim. When you have to resort to things like that, what are you saying about where you believe your parnasah comes from? You think God needs you to do that to give you parnasah? So what we're learning today about Balak. Balak becomes the king. But what is he the king of? He's Melech LeMoab. True. But really, what's his title? Chief Anti-Semite. Chief Anti-Semite. That's what he is. What are you Rosh of? Every person here is a Rosh Bet Av. That's what we're called. The head of our family. I want to ask you, what does it mean when people think of you as the head of the family? A head is someone that leads. That's why we ask to be Rosh V'lo Lezanav. What way are you leading your family? In what way are you a Rosh to your children? Hashem should bless us all that the Rosh should go in the right way. The Rosh should be pointing in the right kivun. We should be inspiring our children, our families, and our friends to be able to constantly be better. And then instead of being a Rosh like Balak, like Bilam, we could be a Rosh like Moshe Rabbeinu. We could be a Rosh like Aharon, who taught the people Torah, taught the people Shalom. What does it mean? Talmidav shel Aharon, Ohev Shalom, Ve'odev Shalom. He became the head, the king of that forevermore. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.